Welcome back to Rod Braces and Rebuilds. Today we are going to be fixing the ratchet face down ass up stance of Allen Silver FG2. So let's get into it. Whoa! There's an attack cat under here. There's an attack cat under here. Hi, Daddy. So here's the components to our rear suspension. Got a brand new set of sway bar end links. This is a 2014 SI bar, which is 20 or 21 mil versus the 15 mil stock, so that'll help with a little bit of body roll. We got our matching Tein rear springs, S-Tex, and then I've got a set of SPC rear camber arms that are very dirty, but they're in decent shape. So we got to clean these up, get them functioning, so that we can get the camber dialed in once we're lowered. As you can see, I've already got the car jacked up. I have to try and take the lower shock bolts out, but if anybody knows Hondas, whether it's this chassis or a Golden Era, rear shock bolts on these always seize to the collar and the bushing, and they are an absolute nightmare to get out. And I'm sure this car will be no different. So I'm going to fight with that for probably 17 hours, and then the rest of it should be not bad. But technically saying you don't actually have to pull the rear shocks out to change the rear springs on these cars. But as I'm going to a lowering spring, I want to follow their spec, which is trimming the bump stop. I believe it's 25 millimeters or around an inch. So to do that, I need to remove the shocks. So as I was saying, I'm going to start fighting with those. I guarantee they will not come out easy. I might hit them with heat right now, and we'll see what we get. Now we want to heat this up, but we don't want to heat it up so bad that we burn the bushing, so it's kind of a fine line. Holy moly. One down. Alrighty guys, so far so bad. The bushing on this one ended up spinning inside the shock. So I now need to resort to cutting that out with a zip disc or a sawzall. Luckily I do have a spare set of shocks. So now I'm trying to take the upper control arm bolt out, this guy right here, so that I can drop the spindle kind of out of the way and work on that shock. But this bolt is giving me grief too. It's almost seems like the head is spinning but the rest isn't, so it might snap. And if that's the case, we're in big caca, because it's aluminum spindle. So I'm going to mess around with some heat and try and get this one out, and I think I'll keep updating you guys as we go here. It's kind of a hard thing to film, and it's a frustrating job to do, so I'm gonna keep cracking away at it, and hopefully we get it all disassembled, and then you guys can be there for the reassembly. That was an absolute fight, as you can tell by the chaos of tools, but we ended up cutting this guy out, so she's no good, but we knew that was going to happen when the bushing started to turn. That's what's left of the bolt. I have these two shocks though. They have 110 or 20,000 kilometers on them. They're actually out of that white FA5 from my junkyard video that we just went for a rip in, if you guys watched that one. So we will be installing those since that one didn't come out nicely. I still haven't taken the one out on this side yet, but I did get the lower bolt out, so it shouldn't be an issue. However, if the camber bolt or the bolt for the camber arm is anything like it was on that side, that was a bit of a fight too. I managed to get it out without wrecking anything, but it was not easy. So yeah, a little bit more disassembly to go here, and then we'll move on to probably cleaning up the new parts so we can install them. I actually had to remove the brake caliper so I had room to get in here and cut, and I see I accidentally cut into there a little bit. Oops. And yeah, just had to give myself space. I can see the pads are recently changed on the back, but this one's all tapered. It's super thin there and super not thin there, so pads are definitely needing some love. But again, I am still waiting on brake parts, so let's keep on disassembling all the suspension garbage. Well guys, looks like a bomb went off in here. There was tools and parts everywhere, but I've got all the parts we're changing out. I had to cut the sway bar end lengths off, which is pretty standard up here, you know. They get filled with corrosion. That little Allen key that you have to use to hold them strips out super easy, so it's easier to just chop those off. The mounts for the sway bar brackets, those came out, but I did have to hit them with a torch. Again, pretty standard. Same with the camber bolts. This side came out no problem. One of the bolts on this side, the left one there, you can see it's darker. I had to hit that one with heat to get it out. I've got both the coil springs out. They're laying over there. Just reefed those out by hand. The bolt here, the aluminum didn't give me any trouble. It wasn't seized in there, but the nut was a little bit seized on it, so that gave me some issue, but that got out there too. And yeah, I think we're at a point where I can kind of clean up this monstrosity of a mess I've made. And then we can kind of actually start prepping our new parts to go in the car. Rear suspension on Hondas, and I don't mean this just with 8 gens, any 15 plus year older Honda, rear suspension is always a nightmare. Like, the disassembly is such a pain. But if you can get everything out without wrecking any fundamentals of the car, like threads or embossed nuts, like your shock nuts are actually welded to the control arm, they don't come off. If you can get all of that stuff out without wrecking any of the stuff on the car, it all goes back together super smooth. If you clean up all your hardware, anti-seize everything, it'll never be an issue again in the time you own the car, I'm sure. But if it's never been apart before, like this car and many others, it is a nightmare. I actually want to show you this. So this car has just under 300,000 K on it. And you can see these shocks are very rusty, crusty, ugly looking. And in one of my last videos there, I was saying that the Honda shocks are really good and you shouldn't replace them with garbage, even if they look like junk. So this one I have to replace, obviously, because the bushing on bolt is seized in the bottom of it, but check it out. This is still a good shock. It still has all its rebound and compression and no leaking after 300,000 kilometers. So it is tough to beat the Honda shock absorbers. So keep that in mind when you guys are doing projects like this. Anyways, I gotta clean up this explosion of a mess and then we'll go from there. Alrighty guys, it is the next day. After I cleaned up my massive mess in here, I kind of lost motivation. So here we are. It's actually the day I'm filming this. It's Black Friday. You guys are probably not going to see this video for a while, but I'm getting a bit of a late start today because I just spent a few hours on the computer ordering lots of goodies at a discount for this car. So I just spent more money than I'm comfortable with, which is, you know, that's good. But it's all really cool parts for that car and for that engine right there. So looking forward to that. Anywho, let's get back to the dumpster SI. We left off with everything disassembled. We got our old bar here. Obviously, we are not using that. I've got to clean up this hardware though. We got to clean up our camber arms, and we need to trim our bump stops in these shocks and then transfer them over to these shocks. And then we can start the reassembly process, get this thing on the ground and get it looking right. So let's stop yakking and just get into it. it is torched. Oh, come on now. You know you wanna. And there's our bump stop. I'm leaving this shock assembled because this is the one I didn't have to wreck. So I will keep it around as a spare for something useful maybe. This one, however, the bottom of it is no good, so it's getting the old part out treatment. Alright, this can go out in my junk pile. You'll notice these shocks already are missing bump stops. That's because I stole them for H Street reasons, which I may or may not have shown in a previous video. Okay, according to my sparkly VTech diary of goodness, we need to trim 25 mils off the bottom, front and rear for the Tein lowering springs. So we'll measure these out, mark them and trim them, and then we can assemble these shocks. I'm going to keep these and put them in my little bump stop bucket because they might come in handy when tuning H Street. Or not, I'm just hoarding junk. Whatever you want to call it. Okay, apparently the main big section doesn't want to come out of there. It's not entirely necessary. I did take it out of this one. This one's already done, by the way. So I could clean and lube the threads, but we mostly just need to get the big, or sorry, like your joint out and this nut cracked loose. So I guess we will leave that one in and we'll just try and get that one out and clean and lube those parts. Okay, with that, both our camber arms are ready to go. By no means do they look brand new, but they look pretty good when you consider I have no money invested in them. And since we spent the time to clean and lube the threads, they both spin very easily by hand, as you can see there like that. So when they're in the car, we will have no problem dialing in the alignment and making it look good. So next, I guess, with our shocks being done, our camber arms being done, our springs and sway bar are good to go. But we need to clean up the hardware for the sway bar, and we need to clean up the hardware for the camber bolts. So I'm going to whip that out really quick on the wire wheel. And then we should be ready to start assembling the car, I think. Yeah. Alright, we got all our bolts cleaned up with the wire wheel, and I liberally coated them all in anti-seize, especially the ones with the shanks, so that the shanks don't seize to whatever bushing or thing they're going through. I just want to throw a tip at you here. Like, this anti-seize stuff can be fairly expensive, and maybe someone doesn't have it laying around like I do. You can also use like all-purpose grease. Most guys are going to have a tube of grease in their shop, like that type of grease in a grease gun. And if you coat a bolt really well with that type of grease, that will also help it install nicely and uninstall later if it has to come out again, and it'll keep it from rusting. If you go and wire wheel any surface rust off of your bolts, like I just did, and you just go throw them in there raw finish, the first time you drive this thing through the rain or something, those are going to flash rust again, and then not too long down the road, they're going to be seized in there, and then the next guy, whether it's you or someone else, is going to be cursing when they go to work on the car. So, coat it in grease, coat it in anti-seize, whatever you got, do it. Make everyone's life better. We got the isolators also moved over to the springs here, as you can see. So, we are ready to start installing components on this car so it can have suspension again. So, let's get to it. My girlfriend just got home from the city as I was putting the suspension in, and she happened to stop at the Honda dealership for me and pick up some brand new parts. I'm not going to let you know what they are, but there's a hint as to what they are sitting over there on the couch. And they are for this car. So I'm gonna pack those away for a few more months, but I am very, very excited about what's in there. Okay, that's that side done. I've left basically everything just loose right now because we'll have to put it on the ground, make sure our camber's close to where we want it. We want to tighten the shocks obviously under load and things like that. So everything's just kind of staying loose for now. We just want to get it to the point where it can be on the ground. I still have a ton of work to do under the back of this car as far as like cleaning the subframe, undercoating it, and brakes and all that stuff. So there's still lots of work to be had under here. We're just trying to do the easy stuff, you know? Anyway, time to do the other side. Oh, it's already done. Would you look at that? New spring, new shock, SBC camber arm, looking good. Okay, that just leaves us with the sway bar and the end links. So let's get that installed. And there you have it. Installed sway bar. Brand new end links. Oh, there's no room to film and work under there. But she's done. Alright boys, she's on the ground, and as you can see, the camber needs dialing. We got a lot of negative back here. I don't really want that. But I'm gonna wait until we get the tires and wheels mounted and everything finalized before we start playing with alignment. It's actually a little higher in the back than I thought it would be. So I don't know, maybe when I'm in there doing other work, maybe I'll try removing the lower rear spring isolators, which might give us just a little bit more height in the back, but you can see maybe just a touch more wheel gap at the back than at the front. I don't know. I guess it's just kind of the way the coupes look a little bit too, is they do look a little raked. But that's a little more raked than I'd like, so I don't know. I might play with it a little. The other thing I could do is I could raise the front a touch. I do have a set of NMHW plastic spacers that I could put in the front strut and tower area to maybe bring the front up a bit and give it a bit more of a level ride height, but I don't know, we'll see. For now at least, the back suspension is basically dealt with, which is nice. You know, we got new springs, shocks, sway bar, so definitely made some serious progress in this video. Next video, I don't know what we'll be doing, but we still have a ton of work to do on this car. We are not over the mountain yet, but I feel like a broken record. But as I say, with every video, we're getting a little closer each time, and it's starting to become something. So yeah, that's it for this one, guys. Consider subscribing if you're not already, and leave me a like if you enjoyed the video. It helps out my algorithm. And hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next one, where we're doing something else to this thing. So have a good one, guys, and peace out.